Hi everyone, welcome back to MBS Care, the channel where you find the answers within. Today I'm going to be talking about therapy. Oftentimes when clients call me to make inquiries about sessions, I hear things like, okay, so what is it like? What is it? So I figured it would be very helpful for me to share what therapy is, right? Therapy is basically a place where you go to help yourself find answers, to navigate difficult situations in your life. Depending on where you are in the world, some people like to use the word therapy, other people like to use the word counseling. Once it's carried out by a trained professional, either one of them works. We have individual therapy, we have couples therapy, we have group therapy. So, yes, a group of people can actually come together. So, it could be a shared concern that they have, it could be depression, it could be grieving the loss of a loved one. And this group is facilitated or run by either a professional counselor or a therapist. Now, a lot of the times people have worries about going to therapy because of the stigma attached to it, assuming that therapy is meant for only the severely mentally ill. This is something I addressed in my introductory video, that it doesn't need to be a dire situation before you seek help from a professional. When you go to see a professional, there are certain things that need to be discussed with you before you start your session. So things like confidentiality. Confidentiality is backed by law. What that means is that you get to talk to someone, share everything that you need to share with them, and your information is protected by law. Meaning this person is not allowed to divulge any information. So sometimes when I hear statements like, oh, why should I pay someone to listen to me? I have friends for that. I have families for that. The challenge with that is you cannot guarantee they will keep whatever you tell them in confidence. You can't make them sign an agreement. No, but you can actually, your therapist actually signs an agreement with you. So that's the cool part. There's this saying that I find very funny. He says, everyone's best friend has a best friend. So if you share something with me as your best friend and I feel, oh, as for my best friend, he or she keeps secrets, so I'll share with them. And they have another friend they think keeps secrets. Before you realize, your business is out there. So the good thing about seeing a therapist is that your private information is kept confidential. There are some limits to this, however. For example, when we are in a very difficult space in our lives, we often struggle with a way out. And sometimes when that happens, we either harm ourselves as a cry for help, or we try to take our own lives because we don't see a way out of the situation that we're in. But in discussing with certain people who have had someone to be there for them in those low moments, they are grateful. Because when they were in those low moments, it was difficult for them to think about better times. But when they had someone to keep an eye on them and they got out of it, they were grateful that somebody was there to keep them alive. So if you indicate that you intend to harm yourself or you intend to take your life, your therapist would have to inform your emergency contact or the relevant parties to keep an eye on you because they are concerned for your safety. Now, even when they do this, they don't necessarily give off all the information that has been discussed in therapy. The things that they mention are anything that pertains to your current situation where they're concerned for your safety. Nothing more. In some countries, you'll have to inform the authorities or you'd have to inform a hospital because you'll have to be placed under care and you're watched for 24 hours until they're able to ascertain that you won't take your life. Now, there's a difference between having a clear plan. There's a difference between having a clear plan and saying things like, oh my gosh, I just wish it would all end. Because from time to time, we have those moments. Again, in this situation, your professional counselor or therapist would have to assess to make sure your safety is really a point of concern. Just like if you threaten to harm yourself or end your life, in the event that it is clear that you intend to harm someone else and you have a clear plan of doing so, your therapist or professional counselor also has to inform someone to keep an eye on you. And they have a duty to also warn whoever it is that you have indicated you want to harm to keep an eye on themselves. Again, This is different from saying, oh my gosh, sometimes I wish I could just, you know, and I have decided that I'm going to do this A, B, C, D to harm the person or to end their lives. The reason why this is the case, as I mentioned before, is when we are in low moments, we often tend to see only what that circumstance will allow us to see, and we don't think clearly. So when someone is able to keep an eye on us or prevent us from making decisions that are not the best for us in that moment, when we come out with a clearer head, we are more appreciative that there was someone there. Another limit to confidentiality is you decide that you want to use your mental or emotional state as a legal defense. So it could be divorce proceedings, child custody battles. Maybe you did something and someone is pressing charges against you. You can use your mental state and your emotional state as a defense. However, if you choose to do this, the court has the right to subpoena your records, and your therapist will have to submit these records. Sometimes therapists are even called to testify. So be mindful about such decisions and what the implications are. In some countries where insurance companies pay or reimburse you for therapy services, they will request your records to have on file. Okay? So besides these things, everything you discuss is confidential. Your family can't even have access to your information without you writing and giving permission to your therapist or your professional counselor to do so, right? It has to be in writing. So they can call and say, oh, well, the person told me this, that, and that. If there's no agreement, no signed agreement, your therapist will not discuss your information with them, even if the person is the one paying for your sessions for you. If you're a minor, you're 18 or below, and you're under the care of a guardian or a parent, that's also another limit to confidentiality, because the parent has to be informed and given updates on your progress and how you're doing, because they are your caregiver. So again, confidentiality, like this is one of the best things about therapy. Another important benefit of therapy, or what therapy looks like, is it's a safe space. In the world that we're in most of the time, there's a lot we have to bottle up. There's a lot that we have to cover up. There's a lot we have to sugarcoat. When people ask you, how are you doing? You say, oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm okay. Oh, I'm well. But you're really struggling inside. Therapy is different in that when you're seeing a professional counselor or a therapist and they ask you, how are you? That's the place that you can say, you know what, I've been struggling all week. I don't know how I'm moving through life. I am really, really in a difficult space. And this is a person who wants to hear. Therapy is a safe space because there isn't judgment. We understand as professionals that everybody struggles in one way or the other. And so we are very mindful and we are trained to exhibit something called accurate empathy. There's this psychologist called Carl Rogers, and he came up with 3 things that he said are very necessary in therapy. And this is a benefit of seeing a professional. Unconditional positive regard. So you are good, period. It's not because of what you do. Yes, you hold yourself accountable for unhealthy or poor choices, but inherently you are good and there is nothing wrong with you. So that's unconditional positive regard. Then we have what we call congruence and openness, right? So this, your therapist treats you with respect. They are kind, they are thoughtful, they are authentic. They don't pretend as though, oh, you know what? Everything is going to be okay. You know the fake smiles in society, right? That's not your therapist. If your therapist feels uncomfortable about something, more than likely they will find a respectful way to communicate this to you because they expect that same level of authenticity from you. So we have congruence, we have unconditional positive regard, and we have something we call accurate empathy. A lot of the times we confuse sympathy and empathy. So sympathy basically is, I feel sorry for you. Empathy is, I feel sorry with you. I know what it's like to feel or to be going through what you're going through. I can imagine what it would feel like. Accurate empathy goes a step further. Sometimes when a person empathizes with you, what has happened is that they have put themselves in your shoes and now it's about them, the experience they had or how they would feel. Accurate empathy, however, is a skill. It goes beyond regular empathy, where you are able to put yourself in your client's shoes right? We're able to put ourselves in your position either because we have had a similar experience or we can imagine what it feels like. But remember that it's about you and not about us. You know what I'm talking about. You know those conversations where you share with someone how you're heartbroken and they have 1,001 stories of their own, and before you realize they're talking about themselves, right? This doesn't happen in therapy because therapy is your you time, which is my next point. This is time dedicated to you and your concerns, and you don't have to feel bad about talking about yourself. It is a place where you get to be selfish, in quotes. It's a place where you get to nourish yourself. So therapy is your you time. Another benefit or another great thing about therapy is that it's a place where you can kind of build skills. People think we are on a mission to keep you coming every single time and keep making money off you. Really and truly, what therapy is a place for you to come and navigate through difficult situations, build skills and tools for lifelong experiences. So basically, what that means is that you're able to recognize what your triggers are. You're able to realize when you're becoming too stressed and be proactive. You don't have to wait for it to happen before you start to look for remedies. Some people choose to stay in therapy long term because they find that resource helpful for them. You are not meant to be in therapy for the rest of your life if you choose not to be. So you can actually go for a certain number of sessions till you feel like you've navigated what your challenges are, you've built the tools that you need, and you can apply them in your life forever. So that's another great thing about therapy, right? It's a place to build skills and tools for life now and future life endeavors. Therapy is another place where you can also have a sounding board. There are times when you just need to kind of share your thoughts with someone, hear them being given back to you or said back to you the way the person understands it, and it gives you perspective about where you are. I've had sessions where the client will start to speak and go on and on and on and on, and by the time they're done, they've actually figured out the way forward, and I didn't need to have much input. One of the reasons why this happens is the environment. Remember that we talked about congruence, unconditional positive regard, and accurate empathy, which is very hard to create in our other relationships. So having a sounding board in a place where you're safe enough to process genuinely, process thoroughly, be truthful with yourself. Oftentimes you'll find that you can find the answers within, right? And be scared, the answers lie within. That's our tagline, by the way. So what to expect in therapy are these things. What you can also expect would be that your therapist or your professional counselor will come up with a list of growth areas and milestones and goals that you can work on. A lot of the time, that is driven by you or by things that you say. So sometimes people don't know what the goals should be, and your therapist can help guide you to figure this out. So you work towards these things, you apply the tools that are given to you, you give feedback, you make adjustments where necessary, and then you can come back with the results. You come back with good results. But this is something that I want to tell you guys. Therapy does not work if you don't do the work. It's like a prescription. If the doctor says take 3 of these when you go home, but you don't take them when you go home, you can't say the medicine doesn't work or the doctor is not good. It's the same thing with therapy. If you're practicing how to be more patient, how to manage your anger, you practice in session. But when you go out there in the world and you have opportunities to practice these things, you don't practice them, then you might think therapy doesn't work, but it actually does. You have to do the work. Again, therapy only works when you do the work. So I really hope that this has given you some idea of what therapy is. If you have any questions or comments, you can always leave them there. Like the video, turn your notifications on, subscribe to the channel, and share with family and friends if you found this helpful. Again, as always, I wish you unconditional love and peace. Thank you.